Israel have faced several war crimes allegations since the start of the war in Gaza in October 2023. Allegations Israel strongly denies, with the backing of their closest ally, the US. Hamas have also faced war crimes allegations for the attacks on October 7th. So let's recap. Who's making the accusations? What's the evidence? And where do the legal proceedings stand? The prosecutor at the ICC has issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant, accusing them of being responsible for several war crimes during Israel's military campaign in Gaza. The allegations include starvation, willful killing, intentionally directing attacks against civilians, and extermination. Here are some examples of claims by the ICC and other rights groups against Israel. Over 47,200 Palestinians have been killed, many women and children. Doctors working in Gaza claim Israeli snipers and drones targeted children.
This was day after day after day, operating on children who would say, I was lying on the ground after a bomb had dropped, and this quadcopter came down and hovered over me and shot me.
Israel strongly denies targeting civilians.
Hamas hides behind civilians, and inevitably some of those civilians have regrettably and tragically been harmed.
There are further allegations of Palestinian civilians, including children, being detained and mistreated. One case alleges an adult detainee was subjected to sexual assault. Videos appear to show detainees being used as human shields to check unexplored tunnels and homes for traps. The US State Department is investigating prisoner mistreatment, while the Israeli military have opened 74 criminal investigations into conduct by soldiers. Most cases are ongoing, however some officers have been found guilty.
Madam President and distinguished members of the court.
In December 2023, South Africa filed a case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, accusing them of committing genocide in Gaza. 14 countries have joined the case. Their evidence includes the destruction of over 66% of Gaza's infrastructure, causing the mass displacement of 90% of the population, 1.9 million people. Prosecutors at the ICJ claim this has inflicted conditions intended to cause the destruction of the Palestinian people. Further evidence shows Israeli leaders and officials allegedly inciting to commit genocide.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק.
South Africa argued this statement shows specific intent to commit and persist in committing genocidal acts. The ICJ ordered provisional measures in January 2024, aimed at preventing any acts that could be considered genocidal. The case is still ongoing, with a final verdict undecided. Both the ICJ and ICC depend on member states to carry out arrest warrants and uphold their rulings. The US has rejected both cases. France, Italy and Hungary have given immunity from the ICC's arrest warrants because Israel has not signed the Rome Statute. However, Israel is a signatory to the UN Charter, so the ICJ's rulings are theoretically binding.
If Israel or other member states do not comply with the ICJ's final verdict, it's perhaps unclear what will happen. The decision would be referred to the Security Council by the state that wins the case, so to speak. But in this case, because where Israel has significant allies on the Security Council, that is like to block any action.
The prosecutor at the ICC has also accused the leaders of Hamas, proscribed as a terrorist group by Western countries, of war crimes and crimes against humanity from October 7, 2023, including extermination and murder, taking hostages, rape and sexual assault, torture. Hamas was also accused by many of committing genocidal acts on October 7th, but cannot be prosecuted at the ICJ because Gaza is not a state. Allegations that Hamas rejects, calling baseless. Evidence includes the killing of over 1,200 people. More than 800 were civilians, including children, with some footage taken from the cameras of the attackers themselves.
One of the clearest war crimes committed by Hamas is the conduct that we saw on October 7th.
Images of victims' bodies indicate sexual violence, decapitations, and burning. Around 251 people were taken hostage, including children and elderly. Some have since been released. More than 100 hostages are presumed dead. The ICC has issued an arrest warrant for Hamas commander Mohammad, who's believed to have orchestrated the attacks, with Hamas commander Yahya Sinwar, plus Ismail Haniyeh. Since then, all three leaders have been killed.
So the implications of it being confirmed that Mohammad is deceased means that it's highly likely the International Criminal Court will kind of close the case against Mohammad. And I think that will have a significant political implication because the only arrest warrants in the kind of Israel-Hamas conflict will be issued towards Israeli figures.
There's no deadline for a final verdict to be reached by the ICC or ICJ. The court's authority and how justice is served if Israel or Hamas are found guilty remains unclear, as some countries refuse to follow their orders.